Top 4 Washington Quarter Dollars Worth Big Money. Welcome to Numismatic Vault Extra. Today, we're exploring some of the most valuable top 4 Washington Quarter Dollars from the United States of America, United States. In this video, we'll take a close look at their current market values, highlight famous era coins, and explain the specific conditions that make certain quarters extremely rare. This includes silver content, unique color shades, and other special features that have made these coins major players in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are not just pieces of history. They are also some of the most valuable coins collectors are actively hunting today. So, if you're a coin enthusiast, an investor, or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, backhand index pointing right, this video is for you. Let's get started with the first coin. Magnifying glass tilted left money bag. The 1977 Washington Quarter with the D mint mark was born in a time when America itself was changing its rhythm. The nation was stepping away from the shadows of earlier decades and trying to rediscover confidence, strength, and identity. This coin entered circulation quietly, carrying the familiar face of George Washington, yet it absorbed the energy of its era like metal absorbing heat, becoming a silent witness to everyday American life. When this quarter left the Denver Mint, it was never meant to be special. It was created to move, to pass from hand to hand, to buy coffee, newspapers, and moments that were never recorded. But history has a strange habit of reshaping ordinary things. What begins as common currency can slowly transform into something symbolic, something searched for, something debated. The year 1977 stands at an emotional crossroads in American coin history. It sits between the era when silver still lived in memory and the modern age when coins became lighter in spirit as well as weight. That in-between position gives this quarter a unique presence, as if it belongs to two worlds at once, neither fully past nor fully present. The D mint mark is small, almost shy, yet it represents a massive industrial heartbeat. Behind that single letter lies the power of machines, skilled hands, and the discipline of minting millions of identical pieces. And yet, once released, no two coins lived the same life. Each one developed its own scars, its own shine, its own story. Some of these quarters traveled far, crossing state lines, slipping into old wallets, resting in forgotten jars. Others vanished into collections without anyone realizing why they felt different. Time itself became the sculptor, deciding which coins would survive untouched and which would wear their history openly on their faces. There is a certain magnetism in Washington's portrait. His calm expression, frozen in metal, seems to look beyond the moment of minting and into the future. People have held this coin during times of stress, hope, and routine, never knowing that the same object would one day be examined with curiosity and wonder. Stories began to grow around coins like this not because of what they were guaranteed to be, but because of what they might become. Collecting is fueled by imagination as much as metal. The belief that value can hide in plain sight has always driven people to search through pocket change with new eyes. The idea that a single quarter could change a life overnight is powerful not because it happens often, but because it reminds us that history rewards patience. Every great discovery, whether gold, art, or currency, began with someone paying attention when others did not. In today's coin market, the 1977 D Washington Quarter lives in a strange space between memory and mystery. It is old enough to carry nostalgia, yet modern enough to be overlooked. That balance creates intrigue, and intrigue is where demand is born. Coins do not gain meaning all at once. Their value grows layer by layer, year by year, shaped by survival, condition, and story. A quarter that escaped damage, that kept its details sharp, that resisted time's erosion, begins to feel less like spare change and more like a preserved moment. What truly gives this coin its power is not a promise of instant wealth, but the way it connects people to history. Holding it is like touching 1977 itself, a year of music, movement, and cultural shift, compressed into a circle of metal. Many people spend coins without ever looking at them. Others stop, feel the weight, and sense that some objects deserve respect before release. That instinct has saved countless pieces of history from disappearing forever. The Washington Quarter reminds us that money once had personality. It rang differently, aged differently, and carried emotion. In a digital world, these physical echoes of the past feel stronger than ever. Fortunes are rarely changed by force. They are changed by awareness. The person who recognizes significance where others see nothing is the person history remembers. Coins like this reward curiosity, not haste. In the end, the 1977 D Washington quarter stands as a symbol of hidden potential. It teaches that even the most familiar objects can surprise us, and that destiny often waits quietly, disguised as ordinary change, until the right moment arrives. Next coin. The 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark was born in a year that felt like a thunderclap in American coin history. This was not just another date stamped into metal. It was a turning point, a moment when the old world of coinage quietly collided with a new one. The coin emerged during a time of confusion, transition, and uncertainty, and that alone wrapped it in an invisible layer of mystery that still clings to it today. When this quarter entered circulation, most people never noticed anything unusual. It looked familiar, it felt familiar, and it spent just like any other coin. But history has a way of hiding secrets in plain sight, and the year 1965 became one of those years collectors would later whisper about with curiosity and restraint. It was a year when change was not announced loudly but happened silently. George Washington's portrait on this coin feels heavier than on many others, as if the metal itself understood it was carrying a farewell. The familiar face had already seen wars, depressions, celebrations, and loss. In 1965, it also witnessed a quiet shift in how America thought about value, metal, and money itself. This coin belongs to a moment when the past had not fully let go and the future had not fully arrived. It carries the tension of that moment. Some coins from this year lived ordinary lives, worn smooth by time. Others were spared, tucked away by instinct or chance, becoming time capsules of a year that changed everything. The absence of a mint mark adds to the mystery. It gives the coin an almost anonymous identity, as if it wanted to blend into the crowd while secretly carrying a story far larger than its size. That small detail, or lack of it, has sparked decades of conversation, speculation, and fascination. Coins like this are not powerful because of what they promise, but because of what they represent. They remind us that value is never fixed. It evolves. What is ignored today can become treasured tomorrow, and what is common can become legendary under the right light. The 1965 quarter moved through a world of jukeboxes, handwritten letters, busy sidewalks, and changing dreams. It passed through hands that never imagined a future where people would slow down just to study it. Every scratch, every preserved edge, is a quiet record of a life lived in motion. There is something poetic about how coins survive. They outlast voices, buildings, and sometimes even memories. This quarter has seen generations come and go, yet it remains, unchanged in form, waiting for someone to truly see it. In the modern coin market, the idea of unimaginable value does not come from fantasy alone. It comes from rarity of condition, survival against odds, and the stories collectors attach to transitional years. The 1965 Washington quarter stands at the center of that emotional storm. People dream of overnight fortune not because it is guaranteed, but because history has proven that surprises do happen. Every legendary discovery began as an object someone almost ignored. Coins teach patience more than greed, awareness more than impulse. This quarter whispers a warning as much as it whispers opportunity. Do not rush. Do not assume. Do not spend without looking. History punishes those who move too fast and rewards those who pause. The metal may be ordinary to the untrained eye, but symbolism has weight. This coin marks the end of an era and the beginning of another, and objects tied to endings often grow more powerful with time. Collectors are not just chasing money, they are chasing connection. Holding this coin is like touching a frozen moment when America redefined what money would become. That emotional value cannot be minted again. Whether or not it ever changes a fortune, the 1965 Washington quarter already holds something rare: significance. And significance is the seed from which all great value grows. In the end, this coin stands as a reminder that destiny often hides inside everyday objects. Sometimes fortune does not shout, it waits quietly, disguised as spare change, until the right hands recognize its story. Next coin. The 1995 Washington quarter with the P mint mark was born into a world that believed it already understood money. By then, coins were seen as ordinary, predictable, almost invisible. Yet history has always loved hiding its most powerful stories inside the most underestimated objects, and this quarter quietly stepped into circulation carrying more meaning than anyone expected. By 1995, the Washington quarter had already lived many lives. It had passed through wars, economic booms, cultural revolutions, and technological awakenings. When this version was struck, America stood at the edge of a new era, with the digital age approaching fast, even as old traditions still echoed in everyday pockets and cash registers. The P mint mark, small and modest, connects this coin directly to the heart of American coin production. It is a quiet signature, not meant to shout, but to confirm origin. Coins like this were produced in massive numbers. Yet paradoxically, mass production often creates the perfect hiding place for extraordinary survivors. This quarter entered circulation at a time when silver was already becoming a symbol rather than a standard. People spoke of precious metal with nostalgia, remembering when coins felt heavier, colder, and more permanent. That memory alone adds emotional gravity to coins from this transitional generation. Every Washington quarter carries the calm, steady gaze of the first president, but on a 1995 coin, that gaze feels reflective, almost forward-looking. It is as if Washington himself is watching a nation change, not with fear, but with patience and resilience. Most of these quarters lived rough lives. They scraped through vending machines, tumbled in glove compartments, and wore down on sidewalks and countertops. Only a small fraction escaped that fate, preserved by chance, intuition, or quiet appreciation. Those survivors are the ones that ignite imagination today. The idea of unimaginable value does not come from fantasy alone. It comes from survival. When millions are made, perfection becomes rare. Condition, timing, and preservation transform ordinary metal into something far more powerful than its face value. Coins like this teach a powerful lesson. Wealth does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it waits silently, disguised as something familiar. A single overlooked detail, a subtle difference in surface or strike, can turn a common object into a conversation piece that stops time. The 1995 quarter also represents the end of innocence in physical money. Soon after, plastic cards and digital numbers began replacing the sound of coins clinking together. This quarter belongs to the final generation that truly lived in pockets, not screens. Collectors today don't just see metal, they see memory. They imagine where the coin has been, whose hands it passed through, and what moments of daily life it silently witnessed. That emotional value often fuels desire more than price guides ever could. Stories of overnight fortune persist not because they are guaranteed, but because history has proven that rare discoveries do happen. Every legendary coin story began with someone who decided not to spend, not to rush, not to ignore. This quarter whispers a warning wrapped in hope. Slow down. Look closer. Value reveals itself only to those willing to question assumptions. Money spent is forgotten, but money understood can become legacy. The power of this coin lies not only in metal or market, but in symbolism. It marks a moment just before the world changed how it viewed money forever. Objects tied to transition often gain meaning long after their time has passed. Holding a 1995 P Washington quarter is like holding a pause in history. It sits between eras, between traditions and transformations, carrying both in silence. Whether or not it ever changes a fortune, this coin already holds something rare, a story worth telling. And in the world of collecting, stories are the foundation upon which all true value is built. In the end, coins like this remind us that destiny doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it waits quietly in your hand, asking only one thing: will you notice before it's gone? Next coin. The 1979 Washington quarter with a D mint mark was born in a strange and restless moment in American history, a time when the nation stood between the certainty of the past and the uncertainty of the future. Inflation haunted conversations, trust in institutions was fragile, and yet everyday money still passed hand to hand, carrying silent stories through millions of lives. By the time this quarter was struck, Washington's face had already witnessed generations of change. On the 1979 coin, his expression feels less ceremonial and more watchful, as if the metal itself remembers earlier eras when coins carried not just value, but weight, confidence, and permanence. The Denver mint mark, a small letter resting quietly on the reverse, connects this coin to the rugged heart of American coinage. It represents mass production, speed, and scale, yet history has always proven that rarity is not only about how few were made, but about how few survived untouched by time. Most of these quarters were never meant to be saved. They were designed to move fast, to pay for gas, groceries, phone calls, and bus rides. They slid across counters, rattled in pockets, and slowly lost their sharpness to everyday life. That very destiny makes any preserved example feel like an escapee from fate. The late 1970s were a psychological turning point for money itself. Precious metals were talked about with longing, paper money with suspicion, and coins became the last physical reassurance people could actually hold. This quarter carries that emotional tension inside its metal. Collectors today are not only drawn to condition, but to era. The 1979 D quarter represents a bridge between older monetary confidence and the modern age of abstraction. It is a reminder of when money still felt real, solid, and honest in the palm of your hand. Stories grow around coins like this because history leaves gaps, and imagination fills them. A single quarter saved from circulation, kept clean and sharp, becomes a survivor of an era that chewed up most of its kind without mercy. The idea of unimaginable value does not always mean instant riches. It means hidden potential. Coins teach patience better than any investment book. They reward those who understand that time itself is the most powerful force shaping worth. The silver people speak of is not always literal. Sometimes it is symbolic, the glow of history, the reflection of an era, the emotional weight carried by an object that outlived its purpose. This quarter shines in that way, quietly and without announcement. Every legendary coin story begins with disbelief. Someone once laughed at the idea that a common coin could become extraordinary. Time proved them wrong. Value has never asked permission to grow. The Washington quarter design itself reinforces this lesson. It honors leadership built on restraint, foresight, and endurance. Those qualities mirror the collector's mindset. Wait, watch, preserve, and trust the long game. The power attributed to coins changing fortunes overnight comes from rare moments when preparation meets discovery. A collector who knows when not to spend understands that wealth is often lost through impatience, not lack of opportunity. Holding a 1979 D quarter today is like holding a snapshot of American life before the world accelerated beyond recognition. It reminds us that ordinary objects can become extraordinary simply by surviving intact. This coin does not promise miracles, but it carries possibility. It asks a quiet question. Will you dismiss what looks familiar, or will you look deeper and recognize the story resting in your hand? In the end, the true power of this quarter is not just market value, but meaning. It is a witness to an era, a survivor of circulation, and a reminder that fortune favors those who respect time, history, and restraint. Sometimes destiny doesn't arrive with noise or warning. Sometimes it sits silently in your pocket, waiting for the one person who knows not to spend it.